Hello and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is one of the best ways to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrency businesses, real estate, primary homes, so you can defer hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in capital gains tax, and so you can create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, cryptocurrency, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration, so together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's on a mission to help you to invest in cryptocurrency with your IRA. Buy and sell crypto 24/7 with over 60 cryptocurrencies, up to $700 million custodial insurance, and earn up to 6% interest in your IRA. It's available for IRA rollovers, Roth, SEP, employer plans, 401ks, new and existing traditional IRAs, trusted by over 150,000 users. He's out of the great state of California. And so we're always looking for everything we could do legally to help people to defer or to grow their wealth tax efficient, given what we have in line here. He is the I believe the founders of Bitcoin IRA, or a part of that team. I'll learn more here in a minute. Chris Kline, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And Chris, for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
So, absolutely. Born and raised in the fine state of Colorado, and decided to migrate to Taxifornia, as you call it, about a decade ago. When I first got here, I got started in self-directed IRAs and alternative assets, everything from real estate, LLCs, private equity, precious metals, crowdfunding when it was popular. And then in about 2015, a challenge came across our desk as founders to consider cryptocurrency. And this was before it was a big deal, right? And we successfully put the world's first Bitcoin IRA into action in June of 2016. Actually, our first client was the director of the United States Mint at the time that wanted to put cryptocurrency in their retirement plan. Still holds it today, too.
That is amazing. So cool. By the way, you can connect with Chris Kline at bitcoinira.com. That's bitcoinira.com. You know, Chris, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call them strengths. Some people call them superpowers. So I want you to go back to the earlier days. Perhaps it was the Colorado days of high school, and maybe you're doing some snowboarding or some skiing or something of that nature. You're enjoying the great outdoors, and you're like, you know what? I think I got this talent or two, or someone's, a coach or a parent or mentors, speaking life into you. So I'm curious, what are those one or two gifts that you believe you've been given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Well, I think I've been told my whole life I got quite a bit of determination and drive. So if I find something that I really believe in and passionate about, I'm going to stick to it. And when we first started doing retirement accounts, our mission was to help more Americans retire. And that was try to find new ways for folks to invest their retirement plan services. And then the drive, just every coach I've ever had, I was the, like the Rudy. I was more of a mathlete, not an athlete. So, I stuck to the numbers rather than the brawn.
I think that's great, man. That's fantastic. So determination and drive, you got to have that to solve complex things like, bringing something like cryptocurrency to retirement accounts, which leads us right into the number one secret to investing your crypto with your IRA. So what is it, Chris? What's the number one secret to doing that?
Well, if you're eligible, always go for a Roth, right? Having completely tax-free growth is the best way to go. And we have a lot of clients that either had Roths before or started a new Roth. For example, Ed Moy, he set up and contributed to his Roth that year in 2016. So his growth is completely tax-free and eligible for use cases like first-time home buying, higher education. So you get a lot of agility with it. But in general is getting off zero. And if you're really thinking, hey, I think crypto's got a 5 to 10 year planning period on it, but it's really going to revolutionize the world. What better place to put it than somewhere that you can have tax-free or tax-deferred growth?
Excellent. Okay, so just the bigger strategy, I think I'm hearing you saying, hey, if it can be tax-free, let's assume that taxes are going to be higher in the future, which,
is an easy assumption.
is probably easy assumption. I think most of us would agree, right? And you have 30 trillion of debt, and that's kind of, we'll talk about that more here. But what you're saying is, if you're eligible, choose the Roth, and if you're able to, that's the first thing. Okay, great. What's number two? What's the number two secret to investing in crypto with your IRA?
I think what you want to have is the right platform that keeps you safe and accessible. There is a security to crypto that is much different than every other asset class out there, right? It doesn't have wire constraints and other assets or other fundamentals to it like FDIC. So who is keeping your crypto safe for you long term is critical, and how they're doing that. There are lots of options out there today. We tout ourselves as a hyper focus on security, as we were the first. So to be able to get the regulators and a custodian bank to say, yeah, let's do this, Chris, you got to imagine the standards that I was at back in 2016 before crypto was even popular. So make sure that you're finding that right fit. And then accessibility is huge. One of the things we've done really well is we did the first 24/7 trader. So before we built it in 2018, you couldn't log in and trade every day, or if you wanted to, or make changes to your allocations at your discretion. You had to make a phone call. It was a little more manual process. Now that's gone all the way to the palm of your hands and the mobile app with easy access to make changes and get into the program.
Fantastic. And by the way, you can learn more about Chris Kline and Bitcoin IRA by going to bitcoinira.com. That's bitcoinira.com. We're talking about investing in crypto with your IRA. Buy and sell crypto 24/7, over 60 cryptocurrencies, up to 700 million custodial insurance. Earn up to 6% interest in your IRA. Works for Roth, SEP, employer plan, 401ks, and new or existing traditional IRAs, and also IRA rollovers. So Chris, so number one is, are you eligible for a Roth? If so, go for a Roth. Number two is make sure that whoever you're working with is safe and accessible. What's the number three secret to investing in crypto with your IRA?
Well, in the crypto space, there is a specialty lending market, which you saw that 6% on cash. So that's an open term, collateralized with Bitcoin option for folks that are maybe sitting on the sidelines. I'm not ready to get into crypto yet. This isn't my entry price, or et cetera. Sorry, they can go right into an earn program, be making 6% interest collateralized on their holdings while they wait. And then once you're in crypto, you can help your crypto grow. You can earn up to 2-3% on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And there's more assets that are getting added to that regularly. So you're a long-term holder or hodler. You got yourself in a nice tax deferred position. You've gotten off zero, and now you can make those holdings make you money over time, which is great. I do it myself with my own.
Excellent. Next question. What's the one question that we should be asking that I haven't asked yet so far?
What's the best question to be asking is, well, I get asked a lot is how much should I do, which I can't give an answer to, unfortunately. But what most folks think about in their retirement planning with a modern portfolio theory. So traditional was stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Today, you have to have a slice for alternatives. And that's deciding the size of that slice, and then eventually deciding how much of that you want to put in crypto is critical for your planning purposes. The other thing that I will say is you should ask, how do you deal with volatility? If this week and last week showed anything, if you're going to get into crypto, it does move a lot. It has big swings. It whipsaws around. So when in doubt, remember to zoom out. What is your long-term look at this? Where do you think it's going to be? And how has it performed historically over the last 5-6 years versus other asset classes, regardless of the volatility?
Okay, and I know you can't give percentages, and maybe this is not financial advice, and past performance is not a prediction of future results, all those kind of things. But generally speaking, I mean, you feel like people like maybe 5% on the alternatives, 10%, 3%, and in particular, I'm saying crypto as the alternative.
For our use case, which is obviously we're in a little bit more of early adopters. We're not at that level of the product maturation yet. So these guys are very, very excited about crypto and its potential. So there are people that I've seen. We had one of our first clients quit their job at IBM just so they could get their 401k out of Fidelity and put it into crypto. And it was $300,000 then. It's excess of $10 million today. That was really early on, right? But most folks are thinking somewhere between 5 to 25. And you see that starting to grow. They'll start with something small like, hey, you know what? I got to do my contribution this year. Let's start there. And then based upon how they like the product, because they get excited, you've seen it, you go down the rabbit hole, you learn so much about crypto and you really see, wait a minute, this has the potential to change the world. And the world's in a place where it might need some economic changing. We're facing inflation, possible second, third recession in my lifetime, and I'm only 37, and geopolitical conflicts that are kind of driving headwinds against our economy today.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a saying around here. It goes like this. We believe it's no longer just about cash flow. It's actually about tax flow. And to the extent that you don't have a tax plan and using what's available to us that the IRS gives us to defer taxes, to grow your wealth tax-free with something like a Roth, or to eliminate estate tax by moving your ultra high net worth outside of your taxable estate, you're going to get hammered, right? And the hammering is unnecessary, right? If you're working with those that are going to help you solve those problems. So as a part of that, I'm curious, Chris, what's been the biggest frustration that you've seen, either for yourself or the people that you serve, who've made millions in cryptocurrency and are looking for ways to defer the capital gains tax?
Exit strategy is a big thing right now. There's a buyer and seller for every market. Well, I know a lot of clients, and myself included, that were earlier adopters into crypto, maybe getting it in the $500 to $1,000 range for Bitcoin. I have no interest, and most folks have zero interest at this point to let go of their Bitcoin. They're long-term holders of this. So, but with that balance of, if taxes are in essence always going to go up, maybe do I need to start thinking about a strategy of a slower exit out of this, so I don't get hit with one giant tax bill at one point in time?
Yeah. So to that case point, we just did a deal for a client, Chris, and she bought Bitcoin. She worked for Google for many years, and she bought Bitcoin for about $30,000 to $50,000 at a very low price. And so that was her all-in cost. The value of that Bitcoin went to $50 million when Bitcoin was at $54,000 a coin. And I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you sell prior to it? I'm like, how did you have the titanium spine to hold in when all of the ups and the downs, and like, why didn't you sell at 1 million or 5 million or 10 million, or, and now it's at 50. She says, you know what, Brett? I believe in the long-term, practical use and utility of Bitcoin. Number two, I didn't have a great place to invest it as an alternative. This is something, by the way, she didn't do any alternatives. By alternatives, I mean altcoins inside of cryptocurrency. She did say Bitcoin. She goes, but number three, I had a huge tax. I'm in California. I'm working for Google. Like, I'm making a lot of money, and I got, a lot of tax. And so we did an assessment, and, she said, I want to start with 5 million. When Bitcoin hits 54,000 a coin, I want to start with 5 million. And with our company, using what's called the Deferred Sales Trust, because it often gets asked, can I defer capital gains taxes on the sale of Bitcoin? And the answer is yes, with the Deferred Sales Trust. And so she exited this 5 million out of the 50 million and deferred all the tax. The taxes are going to be about $1.85 million, state, federal, Obamacare tax, and she lives in California, so it's one of the higher ones. And so that was transformational for her, because she was able to kind of retire or move on to another business venture. The funds can be invested into a tech startup company, all tax deferred. So it's the seed capital. And so I'm just curious, had you heard of that before, or what are your thoughts on what that could mean for crypto millionaires?
I have heard of versions of it, and I know that you can do it with other things also. For example, shares of a company that you might have been bestowed upon as you're employed or own a company. I think that's part of what's great about tax strategy, is that you do have to put your homework in. You've got to find a professional or somebody that can really help you out with it. But there are ways to lessen the blow if you do your homework appropriately. And for folks, one of the other things I'm seeing is more and more of those alternative investments, like real estate, private equity, et cetera, are offering the ability to come straight in with and out when you cash out. So now you can actually eliminate that step of liquidation if you can use it in that fashion. So there's a lot happening. I think crypto is going to press the boundaries and thresholds of what we can do. And I'm excited about it as it continues to grow. One of the things I love most about this particular company and project over the years as an entrepreneur is we really have changed a lot of people's lives. We've got stories like that client that, started with $40,000 of her 403B and now is getting to retire 20 years earlier because she made the decision into crypto. But you have to be smart about how you manage that on the way out as well, right?
Absolutely. We call that optimal timing. We call that, part of your tax flow versus cash flow strategy has to do with timing. To continue that story a little bit more, Bitcoin from 54,000 went to 60, and then it went to 65, and then it went to almost 69,000. and then it's hit all the way down to 25, maybe even lower here. Now I think it's floating around 30,000 as we record in May of 2022. And so I remember calling her like at 60 and then at 65 and saying, hey, just kind of nudging you, you can exit this thing tax deferred, diversify your wealth into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate.
What did she do though?
So she didn't do it. This is my point. She didn't do it. And part of it was she
just true believers in what crypto is going to do. I personally think that it's going to do what to monetary systems in our economy, that something similar like what internet did to communications or email did to the post office. It's got disruptive potential. It's not going anywhere. And there's a lot of concern. Inflation's not transitory. It is, and it's starting to have its impact. People are starting to actually notice it at higher levels. And it squeezes the middle class at the same time when a recession could be squeezing middle class jobs with what's happening in these tech stocks. So folks are saying, hey, I believed in this thing 4 or 5 years ago when the economy was doing pretty good. Should I hold that pattern of thought as we transition into this next evolution of our economy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, but my point of all this was she could sell high and buy low because and at the time, all this craziness was just rapidly appreciating. Ethereum as well. And I had another client who he worked for a tech company, Silicon Valley. He bought Ethereum and Bitcoin, and his about $100,000 investment went to $13.5 million. And he ended up exiting $7.5 million in 2 different occasions as Ethereum hit some new highs. And the point was now things have dropped, and this is the coolest thing. You can sell high and buy low.
Yes.
Right. So you all tax deferred. You can re-put your positions in and write it back up. And so that's the idea. Like, and I think this is one of the biggest concepts here. Like real estate, there's a time to sell and a time to buy. Cryptocurrency, there's a time to sell, there's a time to buy. But if you can do it in a way that keeps you tax deferred, you don't have to suffer the tax consequences when you exit. This frees up I call them crypto geniuses, crypto millionaires who know when it's a good time to sell and a good time to buy. Not saying you exit all 100% all at one time. Yeah. But if you can dollar cost average out tax deferred and then dollar cost average back in and write it back up, to me, that changes the game. Like, any thoughts on that?
Yes, you get to keep your principal, your purchasing power, without having to take a shave off 15 to 25% of it every time. In fact, back in 2017, I spoke in Puerto Rico at an event, and the mayor of San Juan was there, as they were, they're very tax friendly. And my speech was the $15 million mistake. Now, this was many years ago. And 2 guys, Bob and Steve, put $5,500 into crypto. One went to an exchange like Coinbase, and the other went to Roth IRA. And then I gave them omnipotent, or perfect hindsight. And they took every perfect trade of averaging in, averaging out, 4 of them. And both were very happy, right? They turned $5,500 into tens of millions. But there was a $15 million difference of value for the guy that went in the Roth IRA. Because every time he sold off, he didn't have to ante up to Uncle Sam, and then thereby have less cash to work with for the next purchase in.
Exactly. And by the way, if you're wondering what that amount is, it's somewhere between 25 and 50% of your gain, depending on short versus long term, depending on depreciation recapture. Now, in cryptocurrency, there's no depreciation there. So it's probably more likely, let's say 25, unless you're in the Puerto Rico, right, or the Virgin Islands, which is a little different, but 25 to call it 37, with California, state, federal, Obamacare, kind of that range. I appreciate the insight there. I'd love to see that copy of that presentation, because that's
I'll go try to dust and I'd like to update it too. Bring it to the selling at the all-time highs, buying in dips that we've had over the last couple of years since.
Yep.
I'm sure it's probably $100 million difference by now.
Yeah, exactly. And then the taxes are only going higher. And if Biden's proposals go through, which it looks like it's going to be tempered a little bit, although the federal rate I heard is still likely to maybe go from 2025 or 25 to 26 or 28. We'll see there. But the other big one that's in the elephant in the room is the estate tax, right? And so how do you unlock the power of the Deferred Sales Trust to exit millionaires or billionaires? It's with the 40% death tax. So a lot of what we work in is either tax deferral, unless you're in the Roth, which you already paid the tax and then it's tax-free on the growth. But all of that is either basically deferral, right? Yep. But what happens if your estate value is above a certain number? And so we're working with some crypto tens of millionaires and crypto billionaires, where now they're looking at an estate tax challenge, which is 40%, which has nothing to do with the stepped up basis, right? Nope. Unless you buy a bunch of insurance or give it all away to charity. We have a pretty cool thing where you can exit it out your taxable estate. So I'm curious, what strategy have you found for people who have estate tax challenges and are facing that 40% death tax?
Obviously, you nailed it on the head. You've got some of the insurance swaps. You've got the deferment process. Roths, when you get to the estate, it usually what helps is it blends and I can't remember the exact way it does it because it just changed, but it'll blend the life expectancy on a Roth. So if you leave it to your youngest grandchild, you'll stretch the clock as far as possible for those distributions, and then the estate would have that tax implication on it. So those are some tools that are out there. They get you on the way in and they get you on the way out, right?
They can, unless you're using stuff that can eliminate it, right? And there's also, by the way, you can either get the stepped up basis or you can get it outside your taxable estate, but you can't have both.
Yep.
And so part of what's cool, but again, I think is really unique, and this is my last pitch, I promise, on the Deferred Sales Trust, is you can move it outside the taxable estate and eliminate the estate tax. Now, you'll do get some time expectancy. I mean, you do get some, as you get paid back, it's based upon your life expectancy. And as you get paid back, you'll pay some interest payments, ordinary income, and a mixture of principal, which is capital gains tax. So that's kind of built in. So you don't get like the true complete deferment of the capital gains tax. However, your kids, and it could be the first kid, it doesn't have to be passed further, they literally inherit estate tax and capital gains tax free. And that's, to me, like mind-blowing and like transformational for people. And if people want to learn more about that, they can go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolution.com. That being said, we're running out of time. Chris, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure.
All right. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Other than buy Bitcoin, obviously, right? That would be a nice little tidbit right when it came to life. I would have been, I think it was 27. So it was right around the time. Came from the fall. I was coming out of college right as the recession hit and the houses burned, as I call them. So I would go back, and I think the other thing, just, I'm pretty smart. I've done a lot of really cool things, building things. But only recently, as I've grown teams in leadership and things like that, is understanding and really valuing EQ. It's great to be the smartest guy in the room, but the guy that everybody loves and will take a bullet for and jump in front of a grenade for, that's what really defines true leadership and entrepreneurship. And I probably would have liked to embrace that a little sooner.
Fair enough. It's good wisdom. I love it. What's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Ooh, I like to read books written by former Navy SEALs. And so The Operator by Robert O'Neill is a great one. And there's several of those. Once you kind of buy one, you'll see the names cross over. In fact, one of the teams on my revenue department is called the SEAL team. And it's a specialty elite unit of people that can do everything, but also specialize in one particular thing, a lot like a SEAL team is built. And they crush it. One of the things with crypto is people want it yesterday. Well, if you're trying to move money from a Fidelity, Wells Fargo, et cetera, into a Bitcoin IRA, it's harder to move money than to give money to banks, right? And so this team that's their specialty, is to keep it in the single digits as far as days of moving those funds, which industry average is like 21. So my favorite books are to read like that. And I've gifted The Operator probably 5 or 6 times. That's
incredible. I love that. I love the SEAL team. I love giving them an identity, and I love that they can all do everything, but they also specialize. Very, very cool. By the way, how many employees do you have?
We just broke to about 130, 140 about last quarter. So we've been growing steady. And then obviously we had to do a lot of exponential growth in 21. If you were in crypto, you had to do that. And now we've been through a few winners. I don't think this is a winner. I think there's a lot happening in this market overall, not just at the crypto ecosystem, but the overall macro. So it's going to be an exciting time as we watch ahead. I saw JP Morgan announce that they think it's undervalued by almost 30%. And I believe they once called it a fraud. I can't remember if it was them or not.
Isn't it wild how quickly it can all just change, right? When there's enough and education, and enough adoption, right? And it's really the key, right? Adoption and education. So, excellent. Next question: It's your favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
It's Ben Franklin. I love Benjamin Franklin. And he said that as soon as you're dead or rotten or else forgotten, either do things worth writing or write things worth reading. And I actually gave that quote when I was in 8th grade to graduate 8th grade to go to high school. We had to do it in Colorado. And I still use it to this day regularly. It's a great one to live by. Is, hey, someday we're all going to be gone. Leave a mark. And what a great, eloquent way to say it.
Absolutely. Very well said by you as well. Second to last question. What are you most curious about right now?
Curiosity. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I'm curious what the next 10 years is going to be like. Girls go through a lot of transitions, and she's starting to find that independence. And I'm curious of who she's going to be and what she's going to be about when she gets older. It's kind of fun that you give them this framework, but they get to decide who they are. And this exciting time to watch that grow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I've got an 8-year-old as well, and a few other daughters and a son. So it is an exciting time for sure. Last question, Chris. After all your success and all the people you've helped create and preserve more wealth with investing in IRAs, using crypto and all kinds of different things, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
Well, you got to make sure that you have your values in front of you. I usually print them up. We have core values as a business, and a lot of those bleed into my core values as a person to try to set standards, fly higher. Work is one. Put them in front of you so that they're there every day, and they're a fresh, nice reminder. I also embody those things with my family, so we can hold each other accountable. Hey, this isn't something that's up to our standards. And drive, I haven't had any shortness of that. I'm actually kind of looking forward to possibly a few years where the golf course is the only drive that I have to worry about if I can exit this appropriately, right?
Absolutely, and you can defer all that tax too on the exit. We're happy to help you out if you're curious about that. Hey, Chris, you've been more than a pleasure having you on the show and sharing your wisdom with us. I super appreciate it, and I also want to encourage you to keep using your determination and drive to help more people to retire and help more people to create and preserve more wealth, and to make simple investing with cryptocurrency into IRAs and Roths and anything else that's going to help with tax. We're part of the I feel like we're cousins in this scenario, right? You know, we're about tax flow, not just the cash flow, not just the investing.
I love that, by the way. I'm going to steal it.
Steal it, baby. Tax flow versus cash flow. Just, make sure you're working on both. And so, Chris, thanks for being on the show. For our listeners getting to know, or who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, BitcoinIRA.com. You can download the app in the mobile stores for both Android and Apple, or just online at BitcoinIRA.com. We actually have something very unique. We're unlike most other crypto companies. You can talk to somebody, and there's great humans that can share ideas, thoughts, and answer questions and things that you might need on your crypto journey.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris Kline, for being on the show. And I also want to thank our listeners for listening to the episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options on the exits of highly appreciated cryptocurrency, business, primary homes, real estate, saving a failed 1031 exchange. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is an amazing way to exit, defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax, hundreds of thousands, so you can create and preserve more wealth, or getting together with someone like Chris Kline to help you with your IRA and investing in cryptocurrency and getting some alternatives, getting some diversification to try to achieve perhaps retirement at even a younger age. A lot of really cool things that we talked about today. If we can help you at all, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Also, check out the new book that's coming out. We do have some really cool people. It's called Building a Tax Deferral Exit Strategy in the book, and it's a proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or your clients. We have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He's in the book, and other really smart financial advisors and multifamily syndicators and operators. And so you can look for that on Amazon in the next 30 days or so. Thanks so much for watching or listening to this. Please rate, review, subscribe, and we will talk to